The WINONA Sports Network welcomes you to Thunder Talk. Thanks to Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Get all the dirt from Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Direct from Dan Bailey.
Hey, race fans, welcome to another edition of Thunder Talk on the WINONA Sports Network, 99.3 FM, and streaming live on WINONARadio.com. I'm Dan Bailey. This is episode 342 of Thunder Talk, and I'm excited to welcome a gentleman who has become almost unbeatable at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Joining us on the Thunder Talk program this week is none other than Chris Hovden, three-time and defending track champion at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Chris, welcome to this week's edition of Thunder Talk.
Thanks, Dan.
I mentioned that you are a three-time and defending track champion at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, and I said, you're almost unbeatable. Others have every once in a while beat you to victory lane, but well, you have some sort of dominance going at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Let's start off by talking about that. Is there something about the track? Is there something about the facility? Is there something about Friday night? What is it that just seems to work right for you every time you come up at MTS?
Yeah, I'm not really sure, Dan, but for the most part, it just seems like the track fits my driving style, and I'm really comfortable racing there. And then Bob and Tyrone and everybody at the track does a great job of putting on the show, and it gives us a really racy track every week, and that's what makes it, I don't want to say easier, but it makes it easier as a driver to be able to pass cars and try to figure out what line to run and, make your way to the front. Sometimes we start up there and sometimes we start deeper and make our way up there. But like I said, it's one of my favorite tracks to come to, and we typically don't miss a Friday night up there.
That is true. You are one of the steadfast names that comes to Mississippi Thunder Speedway, and not only visiting Victory Lane, but every night that you come there to race, you're a great supporter of the facility. Let's kind of reintroduce Chris Hovden and the 07 to the racing family. Let's turn that clock way back in history. Tell me about the roots of your beginnings in the sports. Where did your love of the sport come from? How did you get started, etc.?
I got started, my stepdad raced for I think this is his 40th year racing, but so I've been around racing my whole life. Went to the track when I was really young and really just had a love for it from the very beginning. Never really knew if I was going to drive or not. I didn't really get a chance to because he raced so much and I helped him when I was younger. But
and just to interrupt real quickly, your stepdad, of course, do a name drop for everybody.
Steve Holthouse.
Yeah. Another track champion, another former track champion at Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Yeah, he's had a lot of success in his career. I think he has 177 wins in his career and multiple track championships and all kinds of things. So he's been doing it for a really long time.
So you got started helping out your stepfather, and Did you jump right into a hobby stock? What was the first thing that you remember driving, or where did you get your start behind the wheel?
Yes, the hobby stock was the first thing I drove. It was actually his car the year before. It was one that he had for a long, long time, and he gave me a chance to start racing with his car, and then that was year one that I started racing, and then the next year we both had cars racing against each other, and that was probably one of the funnest times of my life in the beginning part of it. It just getting to race with him and learning everything there is to know about racing, and I still do that to this day. I think I've been at it for like 18 years now. It's hard to believe I've been doing it for that long, but time goes by quick.
And as you look back through your career, let's talk a little bit about highlights, things that jump out to your memory. I mean, you just mentioned one, being able to race when you first started against your stepdad, against Steve, and having some fun at the track. But are there other specific events maybe or race wins that every time you kind of lean back in the recliner and just think about what you've done behind the wheel that always kind of bubble up to the surface?
Yeah, actually, back in 2009, we were the USRA National Champion, and I had a $2,000 win race down at Southern Iowa Speedway in Oskaloosa. Some of those races stick out in my mind. I mean, I'll never forget racing way back then, and then how much it's changed too, from hobby stock, what it was back then, to what it is now, and just really enjoy racing the guys in the class, and everybody seems to get along, and we all have a good time out there, and we all race each other really hard too. And then really, for me, it's about family. That's what I grew up on, and my uncle also races too, Scott Spildy. He's been at it for a long time too, so it's always fun to battle it out. And now Devin Holthouse has been racing. He's my cousin too, so just getting to do it with family makes it fun. When you get to go to the track and and enjoy being around the people that you race with.
It is so obvious that family is important. Every time I wander down into Victory Lane to chat with you after a hobby stock feature win, there's always either your youngsters are there or our family's coming down to celebrate, and it sounds like that has really been a steadfast part of your, maybe not only just your racing, but just your family. I mean, you guys seem to be a great group.
Yeah, and a lot of us are involved in it too, and that's nice to teach my kids. You can teach them a lot of lessons about life, just in racing in general, about everything there is to know. And like I said, it's something that's always been in the family, and I wanted to try to continue forward with my kids and the rest of our family too.
So let me broach another subject related to family, because every once in a while we will have a special event at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, and we get an influx from the Northern Iowa contingent. And all of a sudden, we have a whole bunch of Hovdens up there. What's the relationship structure there when everybody shows up at once?
Yeah, they're Mitch and Dan Hovden. They're my second cousins.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I've been racing. I used to race against them way back when I started racing. I raced against Mitch my first year, and then I raced against Dan for probably a handful of years too before he went to BMOD. We raced in hobby stock together and had some really good battles back then too.
You mentioned another thing when you were talking about looking back through your career, which is maybe longer than some people might realize. You had mentioned that it's been interesting how the hobby stock division has changed through the years. Change is different for everybody. There's always positives and negatives. So what are your thoughts on the way that the USRA hobby stock class, or the hobby stock class in general, has changed through the years that you've been driving?
Yeah, I mean, from where we are, or where we were back in 2006, I think is when I started, to where we are now, I feel like there's a lot of good changes they've made, and some, that everybody's on the fence about. But I mean, I like the class because you can get into it somewhat cheap. I mean, sometimes stuff gets expensive, but you don't have to go out and spend the most money to be able to compete. I mean, we do it on a budget too. I mean, me and my wife have 3 kids and have plenty of stuff going on all the time too. So we try to do it on a budget what we can. We're not going out and spending the most money that some other guys do. But that's what I enjoy, is you can go out and spend the money, or you can get by, just with some of the other stuff that you have and still compete and run up front.
And I think that's great to hear you mentioning that you consider yourself to be maybe on a bit of a budget in the hobby stock class, and yet you have proven that that's not going to hold you back, that you can still get to victory lane. So I think that is a positive, that people who are thinking about getting into the sport can look at someone like you and say, maybe he's not selling the farm to come out here and race. He's able to do it on somewhat of a budget. It's kind of staying on the topic of the way the class has changed, and by no means am I trying to start any sort of controversy. I'm just curious, is there a change that you wish would happen, maybe that hasn't happened? Is there something that you think this class needs, or do you like right where it is right now?
I think it's in a pretty good spot right now. There's a couple little things. Our carburetors are about 30 to 35, 40 years old that we run on. I wish they would probably update that a little to something newer that we all could, have better options with versus, the older stuff that we run on that. But other than that, for the most part, I mean, I think you don't have to have the most expensive rear end or transmission or even engine. I mean, you can get by with a $5,000 engine right now compared to, some of the other classes you're spending $10,000 to $12,000. And that's what, like I said, that's what Steve and me and Scott do, and Devin. We have good parts in our engines, but we don't go out and spend the most money either.
That is good to hear, that you feel like you are happy with where the class is right now. You've enjoyed, like I said earlier, a lot of success, not only at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, but other tracks that you visit regularly. Track championships, and even you mentioned the national championship that you were able to bring home. And I'm sure that makes those local and area businesses who support you happy, right? And it makes it a little bit easier to talk them into coming back next year. So give us kind of a rundown of sponsors and who's helping you out with that 07 for the 2024 season.
I actually got some new sponsors this year, but my number one sponsor that's really helped me over the last few years, I'd say about 3 or 4 years, is Hodek Farms. Todd Hodek, he comes to the races with me, just about doesn't miss a race with me, and helps me in the car. But then we got Bell Brothers Heating and Air Conditioning, Johnson Farms, Northeast Iowa Motors, Cedar Valley Iowa Realty, which is my mom, Dean's Body Shop, A14 Suspension, Homeland Energy Solutions, Mentine Racing Products. But yeah, without all their help, I mean, that's what gets us up and down the road. And, you don't think it matters, but just, $200 or $300 here or there, helps with gas, pit passes, and all that stuff.
Always nice to have a great group of supporters like that you can put on the car and know that you're representing them well. And I think that's something that you do well. You represent your sponsors well, such as joining us on Thunder Talk. Earlier this week, you were at Winneshiek Raceway. They had a fair down there, and you were out on the track. So that brings to mind a question that I like to ask. You mentioned that you love coming up to Mississippi Thunder Speedway, but what other tracks do you frequent, and where do you like running when you're not at Mississippi Thunder Speedway?
Lately, I've had a lot of success at Mason City Motor Speedway. Todd Staley does a great job at running that track. I like to visit there. And then Deer Creek Speedway, which is, everybody knows that track. I mean, they added our class last year, and it's always exciting and fun. We got real close to winning a track championship last year, lost it on the last night, but that's a good track too. And then I honestly like to go just about anywhere. I'm not hitting it quite as hard as I did last year. I think we raced 61 times last year, and that was probably a little bit too much. So we're scaling back just a little bit this year, but I still like to go visit a bunch of different tracks, like Hamilton County Speedway, and then West Union, Fayette County Speedway. We go down there sometimes too. And then, like you said, Winneshiek County Raceway. All of those we try to split our time between. But like I said, Friday night is our main night that we like to race.
Growing up in the 70s and 80s in eastern Iowa, my family raced on the dirt tracks around Dubuque and Farley, etc. It seemed like there was always a track that you could find. If your regular track was raining out, you could haul an hour or two, and there was another dirt track that was running. It was Maquoketa or Independence or wherever. Do you have a list of tracks that you would like to someday get to, and maybe even a track that's like, money was no object if you just could go there and race? Do you have any fantasy tracks that you wish you could get to?
Last year I got to go down to Lucas Oil Speedway. That was on my bucket list I wanted to do, and that facility is just unbelievable. I mean, it's for a dirt track to have the facility that they do. It's hard to believe. When you're there racing, you almost feel like you're in a stadium just about racing down there. I also, I love to race, but I also love to watch racing too. So I'm got just about every racing channel there is. So we watch late models and sprint cars and all the other stuff too during the week when we're not racing. So, I mean, I really don't have one on my bucket list. We've hit probably, 20 to 25 racetracks in my life, and pretty much everywhere around here I've had a chance to race on. So
I've mentioned it a couple times, but it's hard not to with the success that you've enjoyed. You've racked up 22 feature wins, which puts you in the hunt for being one of the winningest drivers at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. 22 total feature wins. A couple of years ago, you had 6 feature wins, I believe it was, in 2023. Last year, you had 7 feature wins. You've got 3 of them already, and Mother Nature really hasn't been playing too nicely with us through the month of June. Are you the type of racer that kind of sets goals for yourself at the beginning of the year? Are you like, I hope to finish XYZ in the point standings, or I hope to collect this many checkered flags? Or do you just go out on a Friday night and have yourself a good old time?
I'm kind of one of the people that just look at, every race is an opportunity to have a good night, and I never really pay attention to points all that much. I figure if you're doing good and you're finishing, top 5, top 3, the points will fall where they may, throughout the year. I don't pay attention till probably the end of the year. You start looking a little closer at it and then seeing what you might need to do the last night or 2 of the year to be able to secure that championship. But like I said, Steve Holthouse has taught me that you can't win the championship on the first or second night. You just got to make sure you're there and you're finishing races and finishing up front, and then the championships will come with that when you keep putting yourself in position. And like I said, we've had a lot of success there. Not really sure why. I just really, really enjoy racing at the track. I mean, and it's changed a lot since I started racing there about 5 or 6 years ago. It's changed. They've made a lot of improvements, and even this year with the new dirt that they put on, I wasn't sure how that was going to go, and it's, I feel like we put on the best racing we've had there this year.
Well, Chris Hovden, I'm sure you and the race fans will be expecting another great night at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Incidentally, it's going to be Walmondie Country Bar night at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. All of the 6 regular divisions going to be hitting the track: USRA Modifieds, Late Models, Stock Cars, B-Mods, Hobby Stocks, Eco Mods getting some time back on the track. And in addition to those 6 classes, it will be the return of the Outlaw Mini Mods series. So we're going to try and make up a lot of the races that we missed over the month of June by packing a whole lot of green flag fun into the big third mile at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Chris Hovden, driver of the 07, 3-time and defending track champion at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of Thunder Talk. Best of luck at MTS and through the remainder of the 2024 season.
All right, thanks, Sam.
Tune in next week for all the dirt from Mississippi Thunder Speedway with Thunder Talk on the WINONA Sports Network. Thanks to Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram.